Hey guys, it's Scott Lips, and welcome back to another episode of Spin Magazine's Lip Service. On today's show, the one and only G-Eazy. We get into G's rise to fame, his early days of posing as his own manager, his first showcase for RCA Records, and the perseverance that led to him being who he is today. We'll get into his history, his new record. This is his second time on the show. I'm excited to get in today with the one and only G-Eazy. Hey, Scott, welcome back to the show, Spin Magazine's Lip Service. My brother, G-Eazy, welcome. How are you?
Feeling good, feeling great, man.
Looking good. You're always looking great, by the way. I never see you not looking great.
No, man. You're too kind.
I'm telling you, we keep running into each other. I feel like it was meant to be because we saw each other literally like I came out of a podcast and I run into you in Soho again like a day ago. You had your camera, I think your mom's camera, and you were just cruising around taking photos.
Man, it's a beautiful city to walk, and it's a beautiful city to just, I mean, you can just be. You can just explore. It's a playground. It's.
But also, unlike LA, where there's probably a little bit of anonymity here when you're walking around, like people are probably not, in LA, people probably bother you all the time.
Yeah, it's night and day, dude. It's like no one cares.
Yeah.
And it's like, if anything, it's like, and I love to walk, man. I mean, like literally, and it's like living downtown, and it's just the stimulation, the, people watching, the architecture, the energy, it's just absorbing all of that and just exploring. It's like, I walked to New York, and the most I get is, "What's up, Gerald?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No one's like,
that's
let
it.
me take a selfie
or it's like somebody with a thick New York accent being like, like, "Yo, we fuck with you, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we love you." And that makes my day. That's, you know what I mean? Instead of like being hassled or bothered, it's like the only people who ask for pictures are tourists.
Yeah. And in LA, I feel like people just want to interact with you just to say they interacted with you. And it's none of it's real. Yeah. But do you have a preference? Because you still have your place in LA. We were just talking about it. Yeah. And such a sick place. I was talking to you that I had watched the Architectural Digest piece on your house. And my dream is to like have a studio in my house. I never have, other than like my own Tascam, probably 4-track, ancient years ago. But yeah, that's got to be amazing to be able to go downstairs and create music whenever you want to.
It's the best and the worst because I just like, I mean, and I get obsessive. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when an idea hits, I have to do it. It's like nothing else. Everything can wait. Yeah. Everything and anything can wait, and it has to. And I will storm down to my studio and get the idea out. But at the end of the day, I mean, you think about it, your phone, like there's so many ways to at least capture that nugget of an idea.
Totally.
You take it back later and flesh it out, but 90% of the hard work is capturing that magic and putting it in a bottle and putting it top on it.
In a bottle,
and then you could take it and do the like flesh it out and make it like a full-blown song and a polished idea, but the majority of it all is the spark of inspiration.
Yeah, did you learn how to play guitar during the pandemic? I saw you got a guitar, but did you actually learn how to play it or not?
I know a couple chords.
That's all you need.
Enough to look cool.
Yeah.
Well, I look great holding it.
You do. That's all that matters. By the way, and thank you for coming in again. I think we were just talking about it. I think you were like my 4th guest ever on this show. Now we're partners with Spin, and a lot's changed, but it was so interesting. I think, you and I hadn't known each other well at the time, and we have a mutual friend, Brad. I think he just texted me the day of the show, and he's like, G's on the way to your studio. I'm like, when? He's like, now. And I'm like, I haven't even done any research. So now, because usually, we have a team and we probably research these shows for like a week or two. And so I think that particular show had about 8 minutes to research. So this show's going to be better, I hope. But it's a long time. By the way, taking it back a moment to photography and mentioning the fact that you're rolling around New York with a camera, like you've been shooting pictures for years, right?
Yeah. I was into photography growing up. I mean, my mom was a professor at San Francisco Art Institute. She taught photo printmaking, but also photography, and she always had a dark room. So when I was growing up, I was surrounded by it, and kind of like walked into that world from a young age. And after losing her, it was I just kind of decided to pick it back up.
Yeah, for her legacy too, I imagine.
Yeah, and like walking around New York shooting with her camera, bringing it with me everywhere I go, it kind of helps me connect.
Yeah, I'm sure. Are you shooting pictures of people or places?
Yeah,
what is
people and places.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, people and places. I mean, think about it. Like, I get to live this life that's pretty remarkable, and extraordinary in that, like, I get to travel. more than the normal person would get to travel. I get to experience things that, most people, and I'm grateful and present, and appreciative of these experiences and opportunities and blessings. So it's like, most people, I mean, they save their vacation days, or they're, you know what I mean, and then plan these trips and like get to go to Paris. I mean, we just get to like go all around the world. You know what I mean? It's truly extraordinary.
Yeah.
So I'm like, particularly with photography, I think it's like the majority of it is having access to a thing that you can shoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's like, like framing, composition, and light and all that. But ultimately, it's having the access to these things you get to be in the presence of, to get to shoot.
Definitely.
And yeah, I mean,
I would imagine that plays into your love of fashion, because we met, again, taking it back, I want to say that we met like 15 years ago or something.
Yeah.
When you were still, I think your first record was coming out and you were kind of getting into like branding and actually even modeling, right? And I always say like I slept on it because I should have started working with you like 15 years ago. But it's so great to see what you've done and what you've accomplished. And I guess when you reflect back on this after doing it for even longer, because you started when you were like 13, but when you look at a life of 15 years of playing, festivals and platinum records and things like that, and getting to travel the world everywhere. I mean, what comes into your head? Like, obviously, how fortunate, how lucky you are, but also, what do you think about all that you've accomplished at this point?
A blur.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's extraordinary, and I think about this all the time, because it's important to keep perspective and gratitude and grounding in that, you set out to do something. You chase this thing that you fell in love with, and the luckiest people in life find what they love in life, because not everyone does. That can lead you to happiness, but then the luckiest people find a way to make what they love their living.
Yeah.
And
because I think they say when you love what you do, it's not a job.
It's not a job,
right. This is not a job for you.
No. It's like I get to play.
Yeah. Well, for crowds of 100,000 people sometimes.
Yeah, man. And I was there, opening for our first tours. Like, we were crammed into my manager's, at the time, girlfriend's parents' SUV that they lent us.
Yeah.
Like, playing, like, I mean, it was show to show, like 5 guys in a motel. You know what I mean?
Sleeping
like,
in one bed. I've done that.
Yes, barely getting by, but like at least we're on the road.
Yeah.
Like, we had a rice cooker, and we just, like, that's all we ate. You know what I mean? And we were opening for the randomest of, like, any show we could get. I mean, I remember opening for, like, this weird hardcore band in a garage. Like, it was just some friends knew some people, and they were like, yeah, we'll give you $30 to play. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like, barely getting by. And, like, a good show would be, like, if, 20 people knew my music there. And, to grow so gradually, I remember doing my first headline tour, playing for, I don't know, it was like 200 cap rooms. And then I remember my first big LA show was the Roxy, and the line was all the way past the Whiskey, and it was like, holy shit, fuck, this is happening.
Yeah.
It's finally happening, and
shows in Oakland too. I'd assume, like, in your hometown.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like, my first sold out show in Oakland felt so validating, so victorious, so amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like the journey is just crazy, man.
One of my favorite stories about you early on, and I know people that do this, like you would send emails like you were the manager of yourself.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm writing you on behalf of Gerald. He's great. And it's like you talking, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is embarrassing.
But it's fun. It's true. And this is how people start. So, because you started like 13, but tell me, walk me up to that point.
Yeah, I would like find the email of whoever did the booking at venues, like this one spot, Slim's in San Francisco.
I played there back in the day.
And legendary. And I would write, I forget if I'd say that my name was different or something. I'm writing on behalf of my artist, G-Eazy. Like,
What was the email you would use? Like,
man,
some AOL account or something? Like bookings at AOL.com?
And I remember getting turned down. My son was like, I'm sorry, your artist is not big enough yet. Come back in a year or something. Like, and I'm like, fuck, it's me.
Yeah. Well, you can't say it's me.
No. But, and I would do that when I was like, around 2009, 10, 11, thing about like early blog era.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how people were finding music, was the blogs. It was Pigeons and Planes, it was Two Dope Boys, it was, Rap Radar, shit like that.
And MySpace.
Early, yeah, MySpace, but like early, like, you know, Pitchfork, like that kind of like era of time.
Remember, you used to refresh the page on MySpace to see how many people were listening to it, right?
Absolutely. But no, I would reach out to these blogs. I'd find the writers that were posting music that was most similar to what I was making, and I'd like literally like I would like find their personal email address or whatever and reach out to them and say, you know, same shit. You know, I represent an artist named G-Eazy. Please take a listen and hopefully, you know, support the music.
Did anybody ever write back like, I really don't like this artist?
Man, I can't recall that, but
because it could happen if you're writing on behalf of yourself. That could happen for sure.
Yeah, I remember Pigeons and Planes was one of the first, like, because I've always loved that blog and just the taste they have in the music, and that was one of the first like times seeing my music get posted by them. And I think they said, like, yeah, the name's terrible, the song kind of sucks, but the beat's tight. But I made the beat, so I was like, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, I got something good out of this.
Yeah, man.
Our show today is brought to you by the fine folks at Sonos. I have to take a moment to talk to you about my favorite speakers on the planet, Sonos. First impressions, open up the box, some of the sleekest speakers I've ever seen in my life. Sonos has hands down been my favorite speaker brand for years, especially as a touring musician myself. I've used all types of speakers throughout my career, and I gotta tell you, Sonos beats them all for sound quality and ease of use. I recently got the Beam soundbar and the extra subwoofer. I plugged it in, it's super easy to use, and I gotta tell you, my room fills up with sound like no one's business. The Beam soundbar is the clearest dialogue and such insane bass, especially when hooked up to my extra subwoofer. My whole room shakes. It literally fills up my bedroom with so much sound. Lately, I've also been using the Arc soundbar for my living room TV. It's super easy to connect to. I was able to seamlessly hook it up. It's sleek and it blends right into my space. The Arc soundbar has really changed the way that I watch TV and movies. I'll have some friends over. I hook it up to the extra subwoofer, and it really helps to create that intense surround sound. The design is immaculate. It looks great below my TV in my living room. My favorite thing about Sonos speakers is how easy they are to use. You can set them up in under 20 minutes or so. The sound is incredible, they look incredible, and they are by far the best gift you can buy for anyone. Head over to Sonos.com to learn more and find gifts for every listener on your list. For those of you who haven't listened to the episode we did many years ago, I'd say 4 years ago, tell me about the early days. Obviously, you just touched base on your mom. Your dad was an artist too, and you really started to kind of get into music at like 13.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't great, I don't think, right?
No. Yeah, so I mean, I grew up around music. Like I said, both my parents were visual artists, art professors. But fine art was not what I was immediately, you know, like in awe or wowed by or like drawn to. It was music. And my aunt and uncle so I grew up in like a family home. My grandparents, my aunt and uncle were in one room. Me and my mom and brother were in the other. And my aunt and uncle were these rock and rollers who never had kids, had ripped jeans, and you know what I mean, and hung out and drank at bars. But they would rehearse with their band in the basement of my grandparents' home, and I would sit on the steps of the basement watching them, feeling like I was front row. And I'm like 5, 6, 7 years old.
What kind of music was it?
It was like 90s, like surf rock meets like a bit of punk meets like all like, and it was just like it just blew me away.
Yeah.
Like live music and just hearing them just go and just rock and just like, and having this front row seat to it, you know? Like me and my little brother sitting on the steps, right, feeling like we're in like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they like, they pressed CDs, you know, they would open for like the big bands that were on the radio at the time, like Cake and, you know, like.
So it was like 90s all rock.
Yeah, 90s all rock. And they had CDs, you know what I mean? Like boxes of CDs in the house. And I just remember like holding this CD in the plastic and feeling like, wow, this is possible. This is like real. And my mom kind of discouraging me at the time, being like, well, they spend a lot of money. That, you know, you spend more than you make. Don't don't pursue this. You know, right. This is a losing effort.
Whatever you do, don't be a musician.
Yeah.
Were you listening to, because obviously a lot of the fact that your music kind of bends genres and there's elements of all the kind of, you know, there's rock and roll, there's hip hop, there's rap. But were you listening to things like Nas and E40 and Too Short and JayZ back then when you were a kid?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a very wide, like eclectic, a kaleidoscope of colors and culture, you know, of what I was exposed to, what I've, you know, what I listen to, what I've always listened to, being from the Bay Area where E40, Mac Dre, Too Short, these are titans, these are gods, these are, all-time greats and legends and kings of our culture. But then I was also always into East Coast hip hop, like Nas, Jadakiss, Mobb Deep, JayZ, shit like that. And it was kind of weird because, it wasn't as common in the Bay Area, to listen to a lot of that. It wasn't, But at the same time, was always into a lot of rock. And then my mom would play the Beatles endlessly. Yeah. And so just being exposed to a wide array of a lot of things.
Was there like a defining moment that you heard one record, whether it be like Illmatic or JayZ's The Black record?
Illmatic changed my life, and just being like in Midnight Marauders. But the defining moment was listening to the Black album, JayZ. And it was right around the time I'd started making music. And the story goes, I'm riding the Amtrak train to Fresno to spend a summer with my dad.
How old are you at this point?
I'm like 13, 14.
Okay.
And listening to JayZ, looking out of the window, and I'm like, if I want to do music and I'm going to take this seriously, I want to chase him.
Because he was everything. He still is.
The pinnacle.
Yeah.
The pinnacle. And just having that, like, that decision, that kind of like, that focus, that aim, that goal of, I want to chase greatness, and that could apply to anything in life that you are passionate about, that you want to. It's the pursuit. It's not the end. It's not saying I'm JayZ or I can ever be. It's just how you approach things.
But also, he's a creative director. He's a cultural force. So he's much more than just, at this point, like a hip hop star. He
embodies greatness.
Exactly. So that makes a lot of sense. And at a certain point, you moved to New Orleans, you go to Loyola, you actually get a scholarship.
Yeah.
What was the scholarship for?
I was applying for every scholarship and grant that I could get.
Anything you take, man. Anything you give me, I'll take.
Yeah, and also it was, I've always assumed that, it was right after Katrina. So New Orleans was rebuilding its economy, and I had to believe that they were just please come, anybody.
Yeah,
we'll
take anyone. Yeah.
Yes, come one, come all. But went to college. It was a promise I made my mom and my grandma that I'd go to school and that I'd finish, and I did.
To any of that you apply to your life now, your studies there, because you got a degree in music industry studies, right?
Yeah. I think the most applicable thing is the experience of leaving home, and the experience of finishing something, seeing it through is a valuable lesson in life. But the people I met there, because of the subject that I studied was music business, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not everybody I went to school with became this, but there were people with the same kind of aspirations and goals. And I met my manager of 14 years there, who was, we built this literally all together, because you find people with, the same intention, goals, and it takes a village, man.
It does. Tell me about some of those early groups that you joined, because I love seeing some of those early videos of you, which is the fashion, the oversized jeans, and finding your way and finding your identity at that point, right?
And that's life, right?
Yeah.
Evolution, maturation, discovery.
I used to look like I was in Guns N' Roses. So
we've
definitely evolved a little
and now
bit.
It's when in doubt, just black it out. Just
But early on, talk to me about that. The early beginnings of your music, and even taking that first $100,000 you had and starting to make videos. And YouTube was very pivotal in your history.
It's all anything in life. It's trial and error. And you got to get your hands dirty. You got to just put yourself out there. It's the risk of ridicule. That's the nature of rock and roll. The nature of music is the risk of ridicule, and just having the bravery to just try something and publish it, put it out there, and and see what they say. See if it works, see if it sticks.
So early on, you're on MySpace. You're refreshing the page. Trying to see how many people are listening. Because it would change hour by hour. It's all right, 100 people. But did you think at that point,
I remember
something
the first time something stuck. It was because for years when you're waiting for something to stick, and it's not for lack of trying. I'm putting a ton of stuff out and looking for that because we live in a day and age where you can refresh a page, that instant gratification like desire is available to you. I mean, you rewind 30 years or something, there's no internet.
Sure.
You can't do that. But when given the chance to look for that and doing that over and over and then not seeing it, like the first time I saw it was like shocking and like, oh my God, it was this video that we shot, and me and my manager at the time, like both maxed out our credit cards of like $1,500 limit, like, you know what I mean? But like went to thrift stores and styled the whole thing like ourselves. And like, it was this 60s themed, like some flip of Run Around Sue. And I had like...
That was like 2011 or so, right?
Yeah. 2010, 11, somewhere around there. And it was like, I'm not going to say it was like, this is my last shot at this, because like, who knows? But it was kind of like all in. And I'd like come up with the concept, the treatment for the video, like thought it out completely in depth, put all our homework into this. And it was like I'm giving this everything I have. And we put it out. And the next morning I remember waking up and immediately checking my phone and going to YouTube and seeing the views. And it was like 15,000.
Which is a lot, by the way.
Oh my God,
like,
what?
Yeah.
And I woke up my girlfriend at the time. I was like, babe, we did it. Oh my God, it's happening.
Platinum record.
And like, yeah, and it became like my first like thing to hit 1 million, and it got me my agents, and it got me a tour, and that thing kept growing. And it was like, I just need an inch. Like if you give me a breath of life, I'm out.
Definitely.
Like I will go.
One of my favorite stories about you is sort of a story of a perseverance. When you flew to New York to meet with the label, I don't know how old you were at that point, but that was sort of something you were like, this is going to be my big chance. I'm going to get to sit with the label and play my music. Talk to me about that experience, because that was sort of one of the things that I guess it's very humbling, but also it shows you that with perseverance comes success, right? Yeah,
I mean, so I was. This is before the video, the story I just mentioned. I was still figuring things out, and I had a song kinda go, like on MySpace. And
what does kinda go mean, by the way? Is that 5,000 plays at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
it just didn't all the way go.
Right. Okay.
And my lawyer at the time thought that was the song, that it could be a hit, and you know, showed it to 2 record labels, or a few, I guess, but 2 flew me out, and it was RCA and Atlantic. And I remember getting on a plane. I'd never been in New York, you know? Like, I'm going to New York, wow, looking at the buildings, walking around, like, I took pictures of the hotel.
Yeah.
Like, I'd never been in, like, a hotel, like, you know what I mean? Like...
Oakland's much slower compared to New York, obviously.
Yeah. And just the noise of the city, and just walking around it, and just being like, holy shit. And I'm like texting all my friends that like, yo, I'm about to get signed. I'm in New York. I'm meeting with RCA. And, you know, you sit in like a boardroom under fluorescent lights, you know, and they're kind of like, what's your story, you know? And I was nervous as shit. Like, my voice was shaking.
Yeah. It's nerve-wracking, by the way.
It's so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And you could feel it in the room. It didn't go well. And they were like, okay, yeah, we'll be in touch. And just never, you know. And that flight back home, like feeling like, damn, like they looked me up and down, and they're the best in the biz. They evaluated you, and you're not what we want. That kind of feeling of rejection. And you can't help but feel that way.
But I was going to say, I guess you have to hear no sometimes to have that perseverance that carries you through to have success in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because people forget that the Beatles were turned down numerous times, right? But I guess that kind of, in a way, it kind of drove you more to succeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And fast forward some years later when I did figure it out, and it's just, I wasn't me yet. I hadn't, you know, it wouldn't have been the right time anyway. So it's like, it's for the greater good, but when I figured it out and when it came together, I ended up back in that same room, and I said, I told you guys I'd be here. Like, so this time, let's do this, right? And I need what I need.
So you were able to give RCA another chance, because that's ultimately who you ended up signing.
I mean, it's business.
It's business. Like, so the second time around, you play the music. Do they know your story at that point? You had already had some traction.
By then I was touring, and I had, you know, my first album was all the way pretty much like on a plate.
Yeah.
Like ready to be served. And ironically, I mean, it's about 10 years ago now. But a song off that album called "Tell 'Em the Girls" is like,
oh yeah, it's blown up.
It's so weird how music works, but it's like.
Well, TikTok, I think, is a lot of discovery for people because they don't need to listen to the whole song. They hear like 30 seconds. All right, let's blow this up. But talk to me about the fact from there to like Me, Myself, and I and how that record really broke it big for you, because ultimately that's one of your highlights for sure.
Yeah. So the first album, like I said, and I'd recorded this pretty much in hotel rooms. Like I was going from tour to tour to tour and just making the album like on the road pretty much. And that album was the first one I did with RCA, put out through them. Goes on to go platinum. But it was like a surprise success because, you know, I didn't have a big radio hit. I didn't have, you know, it was just the culture of the tour, like, you know, like just touring and touring and touring and building this cult following as opposed to like having a big hit. And
although you were selling shows out everywhere at this point.
Yeah, but it was like I wasn't like a household name. Right. It was like a if you know, you know, kind of like not underground, but like cult following kind of thing. Mm. And then the second album was Me, Myself, and I. And I remember, I mean, we made that, BB Rexa played me a couple ideas she had, like a couple demos. And the first idea she played, she was really excited about. And I was like, when somebody like pitches you something and they're really excited, but you just don't feel it, it's like awkward. Like I was like, that's tight. What else? You know what I mean? And
you're like, I like that for someone else.
Yeah. and gosh, I love her. And I'm so grateful that like this day happened, that like she changed my life forever. And she played me the demo version, and it was just like her and piano. And I think what we used as the chorus wasn't even, she didn't intend it to be the chorus. I heard that demo and I heard that part, like, and I was, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Don't play anything, this, period. Just cut this, put the drums, halftime, do this, let me write the verses, we're good. We can go home, we're safe. Wow, this is it. This will change everything.
So you knew when you heard that song, it was going to be big.
Immediately. Like, and then, you know, fleshed it out, did all the, you know, the work in terms of like, you know, building the production and I think I like rewrote the verses a couple times just to get them all the way right. But yeah, it felt like if this is done right, this could change everything. And like it did. That song changed, I mean, it's like over 1 billion streams.
That's crazy.
It took me around the world. The year that came out, I played, I think it was like 270 shows in the calendar year.
Amazing.
So that's, yeah.
By the way, you've collaborated with so many artists, Rocky and Cardi and A Boogie with a Hoodie. Like, are there any times you sit with people, like you said, and you're like, I don't think this is for me, this idea, maybe it's No Limit. I don't know what song it is, but were there songs like that also where you were like, this isn't really connecting with me, and then it went on to become like a massive hit?
Yeah, for sure. And that's where you have to like, look, like no one knows everything, right, you know, and the best hitters in baseball hit it 1/3 of the time. Right. You know, you can't, like, everything is not a home run. You don't know everything, and especially with art. And that's why you have to know how to like be brave, and when you do feel something in your gut, like follow it and pursue it. But at the same time, read the room. Because if everybody else in the room like is reacting to it, maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
You know, like don't be so absorbed in your own bubble that you can't like. I wasn't sure that No Limit was the one. I mean, it was like.
How did that song come to be?
We made it in like 5 minutes. Like Rocky and I like have known each other. I opened his first show ever, like in New York, at Irving Plaza. It was me, Flatbush Zombies, Danny Brown, and Rocky.
Rocky's the greatest, by the way. He's the funniest guy ever. Dude. I love that guy.
Like, so love much. Him and my mom had a tight bond. It was crazy.
He's so
like,
personable.
They would smoke together, like, hang out, talk. She would critique the shit out of his work. Like, she'd be like, yeah, no, the album really, and he'd be like, you're right, Mom. Okay. Like, no, but like, he was in the studio. It was a record plant in LA, and there's a hallway, and they put the names of the artists on the doors. And I was in the first room, and he was in the next room with Playboy Cardi. And he just came in to my room. He was like, G, what up? We're catching up. He's like, show me what you're working on. And I just had the beat and played it, and he just started freestyling that chorus. And I was like, yo, cut that right now. And he just recorded it. And he was like, all right, bet. When you do your verse, come in the room and play it. And that was it.
Magic. Well, you kind of know with a song like that when you hear it, like we were just talking about, I guess it is going to blow up the way that it did, right? Because it's undeniable, that song.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, you
don't always know, I guess, right?
Yeah, and I make a fuck ton of music.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you just like, it's not uncommon. I'll do like 4 songs, 5 songs in a night. It's a ton of shit that'll never see the light of day. So it's hard to sometimes like reconcile it, like separate and, filter and sift through.
Yeah, because there are certain records where you've done like 100 songs, right? And literally, and it's like, how do you take it down to the top 15 or 20, maybe a double album?
It's tough, dude. It's like killing babies.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be a box set one day of all the outtakes, right? It could be. Well, let's talk about fashion for a while. I mean, how important is fashion to you? Because I know it's a big part of your life. You've become this style icon since we met years ago. Billboard calls you young Elvis, which is great. So talk to me about fashion in your career and how important it is. I know there's designers like YSL that you really mess with and you've collaborated with for years. Yeah,
no, I mean, it's all an expression of self and, how you communicate with the world, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful art form that I've always, appreciated and loved. Yeah.
Yeah, you think there'll be some more, because you came out with your own line not long ago. You had your own merch line at some point.
No, I would love to to find an avenue or a way to express myself through, whether that's in my own line or I'm very involved in all of my merch and stuff like that, but to do something more elevated and
what would you do if you could? Would we design? Because I know you love leather jackets and sneakers. Sneakers is a big thing for you, right? Yeah, you have like a whole closet of only sneakers.
Yeah,
I have like one pair of sneakers.
Yeah,
that's just me.
I don't know. It's not in the cards right now. I just think that like you can spread yourself too thin sometimes, and you could bite off too much and trying to do 10 things at once as opposed to 10 things at once that you can't give your all to. It's you get what you give in life, and it's like right now I'm so all in on
the music
and just making like I'm wrapping up this album right now, and it's the best work of my life.
Amazing.
But anything you want to do, you have to give your all to, in my opinion, anyway.
Let's talk about that for a moment, because you did take a couple years off making this record. It's kind of a tumultuous time period for you. So talk to me about getting inspired again and kind of getting back into music after taking a couple years off.
Yeah, I mean, it just, you can't force it. You can't, like, it has to come naturally when you're ready and inspired, and then when it comes, you have to just give it your all. Yeah. Absolutely. But, when you're forcing and giving it your all, but it's not like that vessel, that like window isn't open, you're just like hitting a wall.
Because you feel like there's a time period in the last couple of years where you were trying to write music and you just were not inspired, and it just wasn't clicking for you? I
mean, bro, it's such a balance of, like discipline, work ethic, absolute dedication, and, like literal, like hard work, versus forcing things. And, like when it comes to creativity, when it comes to art, any medium, of course it takes the actual hours and focus and work, but that's not the way art always works.
Right. It's finding inspiration.
Finding inspiration. So, I mean, I was burnt out, tired. I felt like I'd been touring for 10 years straight almost, and going album to album to album to album. And then in my personal life, going through some things, losing my mom, it just wasn't there, and it's okay. Like, that's what I had to tell myself, is to step back, allow yourself. I mean, because I can be an obsessive person where I just have to go, and
Same.
Nothing is ever good enough, and I have to keep working, and I have to, but like what I had to realize is that can become force, that can become like ineffective, that can become draining and unhealthy, and unproductive. it's not working. So
and some of the best songs take 3 minutes to write. It's just finding that little bit of inspiration.
Let
so you
that
can
window
force
open.
it. Yeah, you can force it for a year or two, but if it's not there, it's not there. So at a certain point, I think you traveled to Paris to find some inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. Which is a good place to be inspired, by the way. The baguettes to the Eiffel Tower.
You know what I mean?
The people, Paris, I don't know, but you know,
no, I mean, the album The Spark started in Paris. I went out there, spent some time, you know, without the intention of like this is gonna happen now, but it lined up and it started, and I felt inspired again. I felt like I was having fun again, and then I moved to New York, and you know, in the last year and a half, everything's opened back up.
I mean, every day there's inspiration.
I'm like,
just walking around, right?
Yeah. So the majority of the album I did in Paris and New York and London. But it took sometimes to unlock that, you just have to get out of your bubble, like find a new environment, you know, make a change, do something different, you know, look at life from a different perspective or angle. And all of a sudden, voila, that window opens again.
Well, talk to me about Tulips and Roses, one of the songs that was obviously inspired by Paris, and some of the new record and what you're working on, because you've been dropping singles the last 6 months. You dropped 3 or 4 singles, too.
Yeah. So that song was the first song I did in Paris. First thing, like first day in the studio. And it felt like, there's no other way to put it, it felt like I woke up. Like, oh shit, it's here again. And I'm having fun again. And this is what I want to make. This is me. And I think honesty and truth are so important in music, creativity and all that. It's a business, ultimately. You know, you have to know how to play the game. You know, like McDonald's has to sell a Big Mac.
Right.
Like you have to give what the people want. But at that intersection of art and commerce, you know, like truth and strategy and all that. But it's called the music business, not the business of music.
Totally.
It's music comes first. That's the first word. And prioritizing just like you know, like self-honesty and transparency and
vulnerability
truth.
too.
Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like lead with that. And then you can like do a good job of packaging it up nice and selling it or something. You know what I mean? But like lead with truth and transparency.
And we were talking about, I mean, LA can be a bit soul sucking. It's like there's a lot of, everybody wants something from you there.
Yeah.
So in a way, you know, it could be probably also hard to find inspiration in a city like LA after you've been there for a while. Because sometimes you need to travel and go to a city like Paris. But you were traveling all throughout Europe for a while. You played some festivals. We were chatting a week or two ago. You were in like Germany doing a festival too. So you're finding more inspiration kind of going to Europe now and your travels there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that particular trip, you know, it was just walking around Paris and just, you know, being somewhere where you don't know anybody and you're just a stranger in this foreign place kind of, and you get to like take it all in as opposed to, you know, like, gosh, man, like the second I get back to LA, even if I'm not thinking, but if I like Instagram story something that tells people, it's like my phone's blowing up. Everybody like, what do you do tonight? It's like, yo, like leave me alone. But when you're like, you know, in a foreign place, you just remove all that, right?
Yeah.
And if you take all that out, you open yourself to, you know, letting anything else in. And
do you have friends in Paris, or is it just
ish, but it's just like it's night and day from being somewhere where, you know, having that kind of freedom and anonymity and just, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, you could just disappear.
You could just disappear and be, but that space that it opens, you know, allows for things to come in because you're not like clogged up with having to, you know, be all these different things. Yeah.
So what can you tell us about the new record? Because it's going to come out when? Soon. At some point.
If Wishes Were Horses and I Had It My Way, I'd put it out immediately. But I want to set it up right. And
is it all done, by the way?
Yeah, it's like 98.9% like done. It's the little tweaks and waiting on a couple features, but Yeah, no, it's the best work of my life.
Amazing. So, and Tulips and Roses was the first single from the record.
Yeah.
But are some of the other songs that you were dropping recently, because you did some other tracks with Vic Mensa and E40, or any of those going to be on the record?
No.
Okay.
No.
Those are just features you did.
There's like the album, there's nothing on the album that's out yet. Like it's all entirely, but it's the album I've wanted to make my whole life. It's the strongest body of work I've ever done. I did over 100 songs again for this one.
Amazing. How do you find the time? You probably can't do anything else.
like once you get in that groove and you start to and that door is unlocked, it's like I'm just all in.
Are there some themes of this record, love, loss, things like that, where it inspires you?
Of course. And how it can all drive you crazy.
Yeah.
But ultimately in an honest way of, all these things can drive you crazy, but it's okay to be crazy, a bit crazy, because all of us are a bit crazy.
Yeah.
And kind of just like embracing that in a way of being human. And then saying that, like, we all go through shit. We're all a bit off.
We do.
We're all mad here.
Do you find a need to sort of reinvent yourself and your style from time to time? We look at artists like Bowie, one of my favorite artists. And
he's
every
the king.
record, the king
of
everything, right?
Absolutely. But the evolution and the chapters. You know what I mean? It's like this era, and this character, that all the different characters that he went through. I think like he's obviously the example of that, and I think there's an aspect of, evolution and maturation and evolving, but there's also, like a refining, like getting closer and closer and deeper to who you deep down are, and keep working towards expressing that more and more, like better and better each time. Does that make sense? It's like, so both evolution, but also at the same time, refining and pinpointing, the expression of who you really are.
Feels like this record is a lot about sort of inner peace for you too.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear your best work in years. It's exciting.
Yeah.
And we don't know when it's coming out, but we know
I'll play it for you
please,
after this is over.
100%. I definitely want to hear it. Let's get into the top 5. We always do these really fun things at the end of the show, G. Some of the most viral moments we have. So I'm going to ask you a couple here. Your top 5 best rappers of all time.
Oh, man.
Well, this is, these are our viral moments. Starting with number 5.
Yeah. starting, everything starts with Hove. I mean, there's always a bigger fish, and at the end of the day, there's always a JayZ.
Yeah.
Like, that's, he's one.
Number 4.
No, I'm starting at 1.
Oh, he's number 1. Okay, JayZ's number 1.
From here on out, this is in no particular order, but E40, Kendrick, damn, I have 2 left. I mean, it's so tough. Easy, man, Eminem.
Yeah, one of the
and
greatest.
Drake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great list, by the way. All solid. And your top 5 hip hop albums of all time, G-Eazy.
Okay.
This one's Midnight a lot
Marauders.
easier, I think.
Midnight Marauders.
Is that number 5?
Yeah, no particular order.
Okay.
Midnight Marauders, Illmatic, the Black Album, Graduation. Man, what am I at now?
Well, you would be at number 1 if we were counting in order.
My Ghetto Report Card, E40.
I always feel like the Black record, it feels like your favorite record of all time.
I mean, it's my favorite Hove album, and it's such a defining moment for me because, certain things reach you at a certain time in your life. Like, I mean, Kid Cudi's first album, like, my sophomore year in college, going through some shit personally, kind of depressed and lost and trying to find myself. And, had that record hit me at 12, I don't know if it would have hit the same. You know what I mean? That kind of thing of like, things hit you at times in your life when you need them most, or they impact you in certain ways, especially music.
True. It's all about your time in life and when those records come out. And the last but not least question, because I know that you love to read a lot.
Yeah.
Your top 5 favorite books that everyone should own. I mean, there's a great John Waters quote that he said that if you go home with someone and they don't have books, don't hook up with them.
Yeah.
Using different words, but this is the PC version,
I mean, Great Gatsby,
Is that number 5? In no particular order.
Yeah. Women by Charles Bukowski. Man.
Is there maybe an F. Scott Fitzgerald in there somewhere?
Yeah, Gatsby.
Gatsby, right, all right.
Yeah. I'm trying to pick a Hemingway. Old Man and the Sea. I mean, really just, a lot of Bukowski.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there number 2 and 1 Bukowski, possibly?
Post Office. And let me give one more. The top 5s, man. This is too tough.
People love to talk about this, and they research these lists, and they go buy the books.
Yeah.
And you're the inspiration.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, we'll put a number 1 in there, another Bukowski book.
Yeah,
for sure. Awesome. Well, check out the new record when it comes out. I'm excited to hear it. Maybe you'll play for me now, actually.
Yeah.
Could be like a little.
Yeah, as soon as the cameras are off.
But maybe like you think next year this will be out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And any other gigs coming up, lined up before the end of the year?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Just finishing this album.
Any other projects we forgot to talk about? You even own like part of a soccer team too?
Yeah. Oakland Roots.
You got your hands in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's so great to see you, by the way. Like I would love to run into you every day on the street in New York.
Yep.
It would make my day. So I'm happy to see you. Thanks for coming by. You're the best.
Right on, brother.
Awesome. Appreciate it.